The Jurassic World trilogy has concluded. 3 movies, a short film, an animated Netflix series, and a myriad of other tie-ins helped bring the Jurassic Park franchise back from extinction. But there's one thing that seems to be missing: a video game. Now yes, of course, there is the successful and highly enjoyable Park Builder games from Frontier Developments, along with a wealth of pay-to-win mobile games. But a AAA, multi-console Jurassic World game? It doesn't exist. But it almost did. You may remember the reports of a video game being in development just after the release of Jurassic World in 2015. Rumors depicting a game in the style of Alien Isolation, a survival game set on Isla Nublar just after the events of Jurassic World. There were trademarks, elusive posts on Reddit, videos with some of the dinosaurs, and even screenshots from builds of the game. But it all seemed to fade away, with no official announcement ever taking place. With the franchise currently taking a hiatus, and with the Jurassic World trilogy having come to a close, we thought the time was right for us to unveil the truth behind this abandoned game. We've had an inside look at some of the game's original development documents, and today we'll be revealing brand new information about this unreleased Jurassic World video game. And trust me when I say, this game would have been amazing. Let's not waste any more time. My name's Jack from Jurassic Outpost, and this is everything we know about Jurassic World Survivor. The story begins back in 2015 when Jurassic fans first caught wind of a video game being in development thanks to an anonymous post on Reddit. While the user was unable to share more, this sparked the excitement of many fans who, for years, had been vocalizing the need for an open-world video game set within the Jurassic universe. Despite the franchise's lack of mainstream success in the open-world video game field,
8 left.
It seemed that Jurassic World had sparked the interest of developers and the studio alike, and during the production of Jurassic World, work had finally begun on an open world game. The Reddit post had referenced H1Z1, and to the unfamiliar, this was a zombie survival game which was played exclusively online. The main aim of the game was to survive the onslaught of zombies through teamwork with other players, and a little bit of digging would uncover the similarities this game shared with Jurassic World Survivor. The game was in active development from at least June 2014 through June 2016. The studio handling the project at the time, Cryptic Studios, were owned by Perfect World Entertainment, who would act as the publisher. At some point during the development, Cryptic Studios Seattle branch were closed by Perfect World, leading many to believe the game had been cancelled. Around April 2015, some of the developers who had been working on the title seemingly left the company or were let go in that process, leading to a number of them sharing the content they had made for the game on their online portfolios. But then something interesting happened. Perfect World Entertainment, the game's publisher, went after those artists for sharing that material. It appeared the game was not dead despite the studio closure, hinting that another studio had picked up the development, still under Perfect World Entertainment's watch. In 2016, Universal applied for trademarks on the title, and Perfect World bought the website domain JurassicWorldSurvivor.com, showing that the game was indeed still in development. Then in 2017, another artist posted a screenshot of a very early pre-alpha build of the game, captioned Jurassic Park Survivor. We believe this screenshot predated the builds of the game that we had seen prior. What stands out the most is this version of the game was a first-person shooter. Everything we had seen and heard about the game up to this point had indicated that it was going to be third person, so this points to the screenshot being from very early on in the development phase. This version of the game was described as Left 4 Dead-like and was cancelled by Universal because of weapons in the game. And that's where things went quiet. While many people crossed their fingers hoping the game would still happen, it seemed as though Jurassic World Survivor was dead in the water. However, new information we have discovered paints us a picture of the game after these leaks, and it definitely had expanded into quite the ambitious project. We're not clear on exactly when this happened, but the game development company Splash Damage took over the game's development. They dubbed the game Project Raptor and, still under the watch of Perfect World, continued to develop an open world survival game set on Isla Nublar weeks after the Jurassic World incident. Now, the timeline from this point forward does become a little blurry. It's unclear when Splash Damage and/or Perfect World ceased development of the game, or if it ever even reached a playable state. Now, as you can expect, the dinosaurs that we see in the Jurassic World movie would have made an appearance in this game. From the developers that shared their work, we know that the icon of Jurassic Park, the T-Rex, would have appeared, and her model and animation honestly looked great. Along with the T-Rex, we would have seen another fan favorite, the Spinosaurus. We're not sure how canonically she would have ended up on Isla Nublar, but either way, it would have been fun to see the return of this Jurassic Park 3 carnivore. As you saw in the pre-alpha screenshot from the game, the Velociraptors also would have played a large part. While Blue never appeared in any of the game assets that were shared, a Jurassic Park style Velociraptor was shown. Was this game potentially going to explore the secrets that remained in the restricted zone? Another fan favorite modeled for the game that only returned to the franchise very recently was the Dilophosaurus, who was shown in her 93 coloring. Some island herbivores such as the Gallimimus, the Ankylosaurus, and the Stegosaurus would have appeared. We also would have seen the Triceratops, the Pachycephalosaurus, and the towering Apatosaurus as well. The island would still have been occupied by the Pteranodons as well, and the game developers had designed a Baryonyx along with a Suchomimus. We also got a good look at the model made for Owen Grady. We have to praise the work here, as these models, especially for a 2015 era game, look fantastic and really capture that Jurassic Park dinosaur feeling. So here's the new information. Jurassic World Survivor was gonna take place roughly 1 to 2 months after the events of Jurassic World. A Category 5 storm had further destroyed the island's infrastructure, leaving the Jurassic World Park in ruins with the dinosaurs roaming free. With the island in disarray, rival corporations used this opportunity to send in their teams to steal secrets and silence any potential witnesses. In the game, you would play as stranded civilians, the ultimate goal being to find a way to escape the island while facing and surviving the various threats along the way. Some of the development videos from the game showed a human character based off of Owen, and we knew at one point he was to appear in the game, but by the time development was with Splash Damage, you would take on the role as civilians who crash landed on the island during the storm. Sounds quite a bit like Trespasser. It's actually noted in some of the development notes that the player would create your own survivor and continue to customize them over time with items you find on the island. Top priorities for the player included, of course, survival, finding food and water, shelter, medicine, weapons, and batteries. Food is hard to come by. The water found in stagnant pools might make the player sick. You could eat the various fruits and berries on the island, but as we know, some might be poisonous.
Is this West Indian lilac?
A lot of thought went into the world building and how the Jurassic World Park would look after being abandoned. Signage and visitor maps would be faded, overwritten by notes from survivors and evacuation teams sent out by InGen and other parties. Dinosaur skeletons would litter the various areas, having been picked apart by the various scavengers. The power would not be online. Once the sun sets, players can only hope for a clear night so the moon would illuminate what it can. Tasks potentially would have included rebooting the geothermal power station, which in itself would be a very difficult task. The monorail would also play a role in this game. Players could potentially restore emergency power to individual monorail sections, allowing faster travel between the various island sectors. So let's talk about the locations that would be available to the player. InGen's own survival shelters would be scattered around the island and are basically concrete bunkers that contain supplies for the player and even have solar panels on the roof. Some would have armored radio antennas on top, allowing for players to send out rescue messages. The bunkers would often contain emergency rations, water, medicine, sometimes ammunition, and a radio if you got lucky. Park buildings, such as storerooms, utility sheds, warehouses, garages, and such, may contain additional resources but may also be home to predators. Dinosaur paddocks are also accessible but not necessarily safe. One cool aspect that was being considered, much like how in Trespasser you would occasionally stumble upon an abandoned InGen vehicles, vehicles from Jurassic World would occasionally show up. They would not be drivable, but the player could utilize water from, say, the radiator and any other potential supplies that were left inside the vehicle. The fuel tanks would be drainable, which would allow you to light campfires, although this also wouldn't necessarily be a wise idea. This was to be an online open world game. We mentioned earlier that while playing there would be various threats to contend with, and those wouldn't have just been the escaped dinosaurs. While you as the player decides where to go and what to do on the island, other teams have been or are still there doing their own thing. InGen rescue teams. According to the developers, InGen and we assume Masrani are still trying to regain some sort of control over the island. They had been attempting to rescue any remaining survivors, tag dinosaurs for future containment, protect the various assets across the island, specifically dinosaurs and embryos from poachers, and restore the power to have some sort of control. It's not clear whether you would encounter InGen workers on the island or would just see the remains of their work. BioSyn operatives. Now this would have been exciting. Until Jurassic World Dominion and, okay, Camp Cretaceous, BioSyn, the rival genetics corporation to InGen, had never actually been mentioned by name in the movies. Lewis Dodgson made his first appearance in the original movie, but the company he worked for was never mentioned. The company did get a mention in the video game Jurassic Park 2, The Chaos Continues. The game featured a cinematic opening explaining that BioSyn is sending in troops and scientists in an attempt to gain control of Isla Nublar for their own purposes. But if you hadn't played these games, Jurassic World Survivor would be the very first to introduce this company in a very similar way. So BioSyn's goal in the game would be to take the lead in genetic engineering and steal the embryos and dinosaurs that remain on the island. They are trying to locate and tag the various dinosaurs. Their ultimate goal is to trap the dinosaurs and remove them from the island, likely to their own facility. The BioSyn operatives would be a major threat to the player, meaning you would need to avoid any potential interaction with them. International Naval Blockade Rescue Teams. Described as an international force enforcing the naval quarantine/blockade of the island, they will also send teams to the island to rescue visitors, search for survivors, and recover whatever they can of human remains. We're here to rescue humans, we don't care who. This is a disaster area, we need to get everyone off the island ASAP. The survivors' families haven't given up hope of seeing their loved ones again, so nor will we. It's not very clear how involved these teams would be, but it's a cool world-building idea to have naval blockades surrounding the island, ideally keeping poachers away. Biohazard Cleanup. Not much detail can be gleaned from this faction, but their role would have involved destroying any biological life that they can, specifically of course the dinosaurs. Their mission statement: these monsters are a global threat and need to be stamped out forever. They had their chance, evolution said no, it's up to us to make them extinct again. Visitor and worker relatives. You can bet that some of the encounters on the island would be of relatives who, instead of relying on the official rescue operations, would try to seek out their family members on the island themselves, or at least find out what happened to them. Some of the park workers were hired from the nearby mainland, notably Costa Rica. The game would include what's described in the documents as indigenous bribery, who know ways on and off the island that InGen doesn't. The bribery people are an indigenous people located in eastern Costa Rica and parts of Panama. Eco-terrorists. Dinosaur-loving eco-terrorists would also find their way onto the island at times and would be actively hunting humans who want to poach the dinosaurs or tag them for later relocation. They will supposedly tolerate rescue teams, but anybody looking to re-imprison the dinosaurs would be their target, and they care more about the animals than humans. They believe the dinosaurs should be left alone to flourish and survive on their own. VIP rescue teams. Jurassic World was visited by people from across the globe, and some of those visitors were very important and very wealthy people. During the disaster, many of the visitors went missing and likely perished at the fate of the dinosaurs, but some remained surviving on the island. If one of the missing visitors happened to be the CEO of a large company, private mercenaries would be sent in to try and find either the survivor or information on their demise. It's safe to bet that those mercenaries wouldn't be interested in rescuing you, and the best course of action would be to avoid. Don't interfere with them, and they won't interfere with you. So there were a number of different factions, potentially different threats for you to evade on the island, and of course, including all of these different groups with the dinosaurs too, survival wouldn't necessarily be an easy feat. But it sounds as though you would be able to team up or collaborate with other survivors, especially if this was planned to be an online-only game. Like in many survival games, and The Last of Us comes to mind for this especially, the player would often stumble upon written or recorded messages which would provide clues as to where you would find resources, and also provide story details on what happened to Jurassic World. An InGen rescue leaflet would be found, supposedly dropping on the island via helicopter. It read,
"Your evacuation is our priority. Asset containment teams are dealing with the problem. Visitor evacuation teams are already looking for you. Your rescue is imminent. Drink only bottled water or rainwater, not from stagnant pools. Do not attempt to leave the island yourself. Do not head towards the ferry terminal. Find a survival shelter and stay there. We will come to you. Try to avoid open spaces. Stick to dense vegetation. Do not attempt to escape raptors by climbing trees."
There would also be recordings or written messages left by civilian survivors, like this survival log.
"I'm recording this because, Laura, I'm so sorry. I'm so damn sorry. This was supposed to be, well, it certainly has been a once-in-a-lifetime holiday. Can't fault the advertising there. So I've been here, I have no idea how long. None. Weeks? Weeks. It must be more than 1 week. Every sunrise is a surprise. I don't know if I've ever really slept since Every hour, every moment is precious. I don't know what I'd give for a cheeseburger right now. Or maybe, just that nothing else eats me. Not yet. Not today. Not this morning. Can't they wait till this afternoon?"
A note, or a recording, left by a biohazard containment trooper would read as such.
"Sirep Fubar, truly beyond all recognition. We were inserted by a helo from the mainland. The helo got attacked by the the flying ones. Crashed about a click away. We headed to the crash site and got ambushed before we got 100 meters. Oh, they're smart. They are so smart. Our weapons, our special training, didn't matter. Didn't stop them. Didn't even slow them down. 5 minutes later, there are only 6 of us, out of the original 10. An hour after that, 2 of us. A day later, only me. I guess they've had a lot of practice. Have to admire them in a way."
Jurassic World staff would also leave logs on the island for you to find.
"Lalo, I'm guessing this is about 2 a.m. Tuesday. I haven't seen you since Sunday. I hope you're still okay. We repaired the Jeep suspension. Tried checking in on survival shelters. But we ran into an Enkylo and, well, there's no Jeep anymore. we got into a GTH service tunnel marked SW10BE and walked about a mile in the dark. Seemed straight back north. The Raptors know about the tunnels. They're working them out if they ever get inside. I checked the RV, but can't see any signs you left. I hope you're holed up somewhere safe, or evacuated. Sending backup. Take care, Lalo. Oh, and I should have listened to you. You were right about everything.
Raptors in the tunnels. Back in 2015, when Jurassic World was almost released, I had a theory that the underground tunnels would be utilized by Owen and other survivors, and that the velociraptors from the restricted zone, also a theory, would find their way into the tunnels. Obviously, this didn't happen, but it would have been chilling to experience in-game. It would have felt a lot like Alien Isolation. So there is a lot of information to digest here, and ultimately we've come away with the thought that this game really should have been made. While I can't vouch for Cryptic Studios or Splash Damage's work, as I simply have not played any of their games, we can see from the various assets and models made for this game that it would have looked pretty damn sweet. The concepts and ideas that were considered sounded like they would make a great open world survival game that dabbled with horror elements and would have given us a long-awaited game that many fans have been shouting for, well, years. The franchise has a weird history with video games. Going back to 1993, there were a wealth of games made to tie in with the movie, but also continue the story in fun and exciting ways. Trespasser has a place in many Jurassic fans' hearts, but at the time was hailed as the worst game of 1998 due to its overly ambitious intentions and the very fact that it was released well before it was completed. Jurassic Park 3 almost had a tie-in game called Jurassic Park Survival, which also was cancelled for various reasons, but would have, according to some plot descriptions given, allowed the player to explore Site B, Isla Nublar. Some later plot descriptions hinted that the game actually took place on a third island, but, well, we'll save that for another video. Operation Genesis gave us, back in 2004, a great experience where you could build your own Jurassic Park. Frontier Developments continued the Park Builder style game with Jurassic World Evolution and Evolution 2. Since then, the franchise has more or less been plagued with short-lived pay-to-play games or games that just don't meet the mark for what people actually want to play. The echoing sentiment across the fandom and honestly across the general audience who just want a Jurassic game is give us Alien Isolation, but make it Jurassic Park. And why not? The original two movies perfectly blended the adventure, the science, and the horror that the franchise has now drifted away from. If the studios want to avoid making the Jurassic World movies even remotely scary, then maybe they should pour that missing element into the video game sphere and actually allow a game developer to design a video game that appeals to the masses and not just the younger audience. Alien Isolation made multiple best of lists and won several awards, consistently hitting top 10 lists. It also made a boatload of money. The Last of Us, well, do I even need to say it? It's one of the most popular games that has completely embedded itself into our modern culture, consistently hit 10 out of 10 reviews, and appeared on lists featuring the very best games. And guess what? It made a boatload of money. Seriously, what are they waiting for? It's been disappointing to see these wonderful assets from yet another cancelled Jurassic Park video game. I certainly hope there is some plan in the not too distant future to reignite this title or something similar, as the Jurassic World movies have lacked an open world video game and the franchise as a whole absolutely deserves one. It's also a shame for the artists who poured their time and energy into these fantastic dinosaur models, and likely a lot more for the game too, only to see it cancelled. But what do you think? And what do you make of what could have been with Jurassic World Survivor? Share your thoughts down below in the comments, and thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed what we shared here today, please give us a like and hit the subscribe button for more Jurassic content.